The 2026 Formula One regulations are causing quite a stir in the racing world. Recent discoveries suggest that these new rules might make F1 cars slower than those in Formula 2. This revelation has sparked concerns among fans, teams, and experts alike. In this video, we delve into the complexities of these regulations, exploring their impact on the sport and the potential challenges they pose. Let's take a closer look at what's happening with the 2026 Formula One regulations. A few days ago, a scary discovery shook the F1 world. The rule might in fact be more effective than it seems and so slow down the movement of cars. However, Adrian Newey, the Red Bull aerodynamics expert, came up with an opinion that this is not a reason for panic. Will this stop people from getting upset about the troublesome changes to F1? The 2026 F1 engine plans may face troubles after the computer tests revealed serious problems with the designs. One of the main differences is the fact that instead of using fossil fuels, all F1 cars are powered by ethanol exclusively. This gives a big trouble for engine manufacturers to retain the same power output and performance when fossil fuels are not used. Moreover, the way power distribution between the engine's combustion and recovery systems is altered, with 50-50 split as the goal. In this case, cars will be a bit smaller and lighter than now. However, the active aerodynamics are not without their shortcomings. They not only allow cars to go faster on straightaways, but also stay better in corners. What they did next is that they tested a basic car model on computers and found that the cars were not controllable at full speed. The bikes were drifting out even on the straight parts of the road, and it was really difficult to keep the bikes on the road when making turns. The modifications they had in mind for the aerodynamics turned out to be even worse, making the car 3 times more unstable than it would get with the current systems. Tests by Red Bull indicated that the batteries and recovery systems won't be able to keep up with the power requirements, as almost half of the power in the 2026 cars will come from these systems, and it is a big change from the way things are today. The upshot is that Formula One has to come up with a new design for the car frames that will match the limitations of the new engine types. It means that we will have to redo the chassis so that it can make up for the decrease in power from the engine. In fact, Formula One is changing from 90% to 0% fossil fuel use, which is of course a source of concern for the possible output limitations and the energy recovery system weaknesses. The cars keep their speedy pace with the help of active aerodynamics. Nevertheless, it's a big issue which is concerning, as the tests reveal that the 2026 cars could end up slower than the Formula 2 cars due to the careful handling needed to deal with the aerodynamic problems. Given that there was a reaction after the release of the test results, it's understandable that many are concerned. They also know that it is not the most appealing for drivers. Take Vettel, for example. You might think that he would approve of such improvements, but he is in fact rather critical of modern cars. He describes them as being bulky and cumbersome, with a sensation of being on a boat, especially in the slow turns. While there are slight improvements in speed, he is still not impressed by the Red Bull RB19 and the RB2, which were launched this year. However, for 2026, there could be bigger issues like how the engines work. Adrian Newey, one of the senior personnel at Red Bull, is concerned about the race in Monaco that is supposed to take place next year. He believes that, based on the engine and the battery power, the balance will be maintained. It means that the engine is going to have to work very hard even during the slow corners and the Monaco's hairpin. In an interview, the Red Bull's chief technical officer said, "It will be strange. The engine will work like a generator almost all the time. However, he has some concerns about how it will perform in tight turns like the hairpin." The rules for the engines are fixed, but the rules for the car frames are still to be decided. Teams are in dialogue with the FIA to sort out the dilemma of how to make active aerodynamics work without slowing the cars down. The first test conducted could imply that they would have to develop a more complex front and rear wings in order to keep the cars stable with the recent engine rules. The cars are not doing well because of the new regulation that has been introduced with a focus on the rear aerodynamics. This is giving the teams a serious headache, as the rules aren't really well devised, especially on the matter of how the engine and chassis work together. Newey even doubts whether the main purpose of these regulations is to favor electric cars or not. In his opinion, F1 rules are not beneficial for the majority of the cars, since electric cars are quite different from F1 cars. Navy does not believe in the rules of the game, and he thinks that more people will come to share his view even within the next year. He believes that the rules are also strange since you cannot use parts of the engine at the beginning of the race. This is complete nonsense. If these rules remain the same in the future, then they should be modified. Before 2020, car makers were able to do that by using the energy from the part called the MGUK during slower speeds, thus recharging the battery. However, the FIA decided to ban this method starting from the 2020 season, but the reason is not yet clear. This decision looks strange, and it is the opposite of the idea of rational energy usage. The real issue for the 2026 power unit isn't how it's designed, but rather how the rules regarding it are being implemented. The rules are made too simple, so costly parts such as sensors have been omitted. This in turn led to the cars being less efficient. Rather than making everything completely different all at once, it might have been wiser to make minor changes over a few years, like enlarging the MGUK and allowing more adjustability within the batteries. In this way, we can ensure that the technology was able to keep up with the pace of new innovations and changes in the market. Last but not least, it is a big mistake to be at the mercy of Audi. F1 should concentrate more on improving the sport quality and developing technologies rather than just satisfying a certain car maker. This law, which stipulates that there should be a 50-50 split of power between the engine and the electric part, is obviously not something that the FIA or FOM are happy with. They insisted on it and the new car companies did. However, the teams, the drivers, and the fans among others clearly don't like this idea. Now, even the most sophisticated engines are applied merely to charge the battery, which is a waste. The new regulations may be toxic for Formula 1, a sport which is already going through the worst time in its history. It is a risky move which may displease the fans and consequently put the image of the game in jeopardy. Those rules might not be the best in the world, but to switch them all for Audi, GM, and Ford preferences would be a great mistake. However, there is a possibility of salvation. VAG, being one of the main stakeholders in Formula 1, could also be the one to change the situation. They're not so much interested in electric cars as they used to be and are investing in other technologies like e-fuels from air and waste. They suppose that governments will come to the conclusion that electric cars are not the best solution and will put their minds to the task of finding other options. Regardless of whether they're right or wrong, we'll have to hold our breath until we know. Yet, the possibility of their change in emphasis to come up with a new engine formula for F1 cannot be ruled out, one that is both speedy and great for the environment. Nevertheless, F1 is always struggling to get enough money from car companies, which makes big changes very difficult. Do you believe the new regulations will make the F1 races less attractive? Do not forget to post your comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.